What up, guys? It's Chris. Today I wanted to make a video about the possible careers that you could have in the lighting industry. This video kind of stems off a topic that I talk about when I teach a class at the college that I work at sometimes. I talk about the possible careers and how it can go a lot farther than technical theater or just theater in general. I went to college for technical theater at Rhode Island College in Providence, Rhode Island. And there is a lot of people that go through that school that are either on the acting side or the technical side and maybe don't know what to do after school or just aren't aware of all of the possibilities out in the world. I started working at a production company right as my freshman year of college, so I got what I think is the best of both worlds in a theatrical college, education. And I was on the weekends and sometimes during the week, I was out, doing rigs, hanging 120Ks, moving light packages, all that stuff. So I like to think I got the best of both worlds, but there's no right or wrong way to get into lighting. I just wanted to kind of highlight the possible career choices that you can go into after school. It doesn't necessarily need to be theater. Because I went to school in Rhode Island, it is the smallest state in the country. There aren't a lot of theater jobs available, and a lot of them that are available are accounted for. So, what does a newly graduated student with a technical theater degree do? Well, the first choice would be to go into theater. There are a lot of local theaters. There's really only one kind of professional theater in Rhode Island that kind of, produces their own shows. There is, a fair amount of opportunity in theater. You can go into community theater. You could work at, off-Broadway. You could work on Broadway. You could work on a touring Broadway show. There's a lot of different ways to kind of make it in the theatrical world. You could also go back to school and teach theater, whether that's on the high school level or the collegiate level. Another option besides theater would be going to the concert world, which I'm in, for example. So I'm a touring lighting director and designer for the comedian Gabriel Iglesias, and we travel around and we do all the shows together. I first started to work as a vendor, which is a great option. There's a lot of good vendors in the country, four-wall and upstaging, just to name a few of the big ones. And depending on where you are in the country, I'm sure there's a lot of good local ones around. I worked at a company called East Coast Lighting. I learned a lot of things from that. Unfortunately, they're not around anymore, and I've just kind of moved on. So vendors, working for the vendor would be a great side to start in the concert industry. You could also be, a house guy. You could be a stagehand. You could be the house lighting guy at, say, a House of Blues, or you could be the touring lighting guy at the House of Blues that one day. Both positions are equally important to make the day go successful. Branching off being a house guy, being a house LD, there is a lot of shows that come through venues that aren't just bands. For example, I'm on tour with a comedian right now, and we have 5 semi-trucks of gear, about 70 rigging points every day to do a comedy show every night. There are magicians on tour, there's dance troupes on tour, there's classical music on tour, comedy, there's, people like Alton Brown go around and talk about cooking shows, and there's live podcasts, and all sorts of things like that are touring shows, and all need, lighting crew, sound crew, video crew, things of that nature. Once you get into the kind of higher realm of concerts and events and things like that, for example, the Grammys and the Emmys and things like that, the lighting jobs per se, they get very deep. There might be 2 or 3 lighting designers. There might be 2 or 3 associate lighting designers. There might be, 3 or 4 lighting programmers, and there might be 3 or 4 lighting directors just for this one event. I think that's about 12 or 16 or however many jobs I just named off. But, that could be you if you get into that side of things. If you go the television route, there's a lot of lighting in TV and film. I know in Rhode Island, Hocus Pocus and a few other movies just kind of finished wrapping up. So people are slammed out here in terms of work. all the television shows need lighting, all the movies need lighting, and that it can be very local to you. You don't have to go to Hollywood to do that. One of the more boring sides of that, in my opinion, would be like the news, for example. The news, your local news needs lighting and audio and video operators. If we take a look at a green screen, you can see how much, quote unquote production that is. We got into a lot of that with Unreal Engine and the pandemic and stuff, and that's a real skill. The weatherman needs to be, against the map and not against the green screen. Another side of things, kind of branching off like the Emmys and stuff, that's not really a concert or a tour, for example. So we like to call those like corporate events. And there is a lot of corporate events in the world. Some of them can be more fancy than others, like the Emmys and Oscars and things like that could make it look real nice. Some of them are just a bunch of, projectors and speakers on sticks in, a million ballrooms, and that's your job. Some of these stages need lighting, up lights, curtain lights, little ballyhoos for when the CEO of the bank enters or whoever. These are all valid jobs. These are all lighting jobs. And again, there's directors, designers, programmers. Depending on the scale of the corporate job, there could be, a lot of people involved. Same thing on the technician side. If you're in a ballroom, hanging 200 motors, there's probably going to be a few lights hanging off of that truss. Just a guess. But corporate side, doing trade shows, car shows. I was at the convention center in Rhode Island. We were setting up a booth for Cox Communication to sell Wi-Fi. These are all valid production needs, and you can go ahead and make a lot of money, working these installs. Speaking of installs, that's a whole nother side of lighting. People can be salesmen for, fixture types, for example. There's salesmen at Roby and Martin, Clay Packey, the guys at Elation. They take, their little roadshow around and they travel and they try to sell you all this shit, and it's great. And those people are needed. Lighting knowledge is needed there to sell you on a product. Installs, there's a company called Barbizon out there. Barbizon Lighting, I think, or Lighting Systems or something. They will sell you the whole thing, the dimmers, the line sets, the lights, the theater, the console, the house lights, the house light controllers. And just as they sell them, there's people to draw that plan up, there's people to engineer it, and there's people to actually install it. These projects can employ up to hundreds of people, hundreds of thousands of people. One of the last things I'll touch on is architectural lighting. That is a whole nother side of the world that needs, lighting people in almost a theatrical eye. I was fortunate enough to view, not necessarily work on, but view some of the process for the design and the install and the decisions with DOT and the design firm and stuff for the bridge in Pawtucket. As you can see from this photo here, it's all lit up. Choices were made. Fixture choices were made. The DOT needed to approve these colors. You can't just have certain colors on a highway. And, it was a whole thing. You can see this building here. This is a picture of Government Plaza, so City Hall in downtown Boston. This was a music festival called Boston Calling, but you can see that the building itself is lit up. That's... more kind of festival-style architectural lighting, but there are companies in the world that specialize in just architectural lighting. So I hope this was helpful. I hope this kind of, opens your eyes and kind of shows you what else is out there in the world besides theater or besides, kind of working in a church, something like that, something to broaden your horizons, and potentially make a career and a living and hopefully a comfortable living, out of what you love to do. Isn't that the goal?